This was my first time in Hyderabad, the first time that I ever came to your beautiful city, and this is my third day with you. And it does not feel like I came from some other city or some other state. It feels like I've been at home. So first of all, thank you to everybody for your love and support in the last 2 to 3 days. I cannot believe it that I landed in the city for the first time only 2 nights back. And by now I feel like I've connected with so many of you. So many of you have already written emails to me, which I'm yet to reply to. So many of you have reached out through social media. And I hope that this engagement will continue and I will get to come to Hyderabad and especially to the Mutt as many times as possible. What a great day to be talking to young people in any part of the world. And this day truly symbolizes everything that defines us as an Indian. On September 11, 1893, an Indian monk stood up in Chicago and won the world and literally changed it for once and forever. The way yoga entered into the rest of the world, the way Eastern spirituality gained a position for itself globally, and the way people got attracted to the great soul and through him to the rest of the ideas of Vedanta and Eastern spirituality. That in itself is remarkable. It just shows that the important values, the values that have always been there are more people willing to accept these values every single day. It depends on who carries the message. It depends on how that message is carried. And we have seen in past century and a half how people from all across the world have subscribed to the Ramakrishna Vivekananda ideology. We have seen how it has become the founding pillar for the successes of many men and women after the great souls came to this planet themselves. And this just reminds us that all good ideas, all good values, all good teachings are supposed to be shared with more and more people, so that more people can manifest the perfection that is within them. That has always been Swami Vivekananda's idea of education, the manifestation of perfection already in human beings. So September 11, 1893 reminds us of the greatness, the glory of what we already had in this civilization, in this part of the world, that transferred to the rest of the world. But there are other things that it should remind us of. And I do not like talking about negative things. But if you just pay your attention to September 11, the other incident that happened, it just tells us that what happens when we fail to live by the ideas that the great men and women have preached us with. On September 11, 1893, Swami Vivekananda stood up and used 2 words. One was tolerance. The other one was universal acceptance. And look at the relevance of those 2 words in the present day world, in the present times. If we had tolerance and if we had universal acceptance, do you think there would have been any other incident except for the happy, joyous and prosperous ones that would have happened on September 11 anywhere else in the world? We need to remind ourselves at this point in time of those 2 words more than ever before. We need to have tolerance for all kinds of ideas. We may firmly disagree with people without being disagreeable. We may dislike something without disliking people. So have that idea of tolerance within you. But the greatness of Swami Vivekananda follows up with the second word, and that is universal acceptance. It is one thing to tolerate something. It is this other thing to be very accepting, to be able to embrace different people, different ideas, different cultures, different ideologies. Your and my views may not match all the time. Your and my liking may not match all the time. But you and I should value each other's differences as much as we respect each other's similarities. And that is the promise of this country. Ever since we went to school, and growing up, every single time we've been taught that word, unity in diversity. And there is no other nation on this planet that defines unity and diversity better than ever before, and better than any other example that exists on the planet. Now, what I said at the beginning of my speech, that this was my first time in Hyderabad, my third day in the city, and I still feel like I am at home. And just look at the differences. I do not speak the language that you do. I do not know Telugu, but I love it. And I hope to learn the language at some point. But just because I do not speak Telugu does not make you reject my views, does not make you reject my opinions. I have only heard about Kuchipudi in my general knowledge books and in general knowledge quiz competitions. Never been to a performance. But that does not keep me away from respecting and embracing and admiring the culture, the rich culture and tradition that you have here. That is what unity in diversity looks like. I have grown up watching VVS Lakshman play, and I've grown up admiring a great Prime Minister in PV Narasimha Rao, whose praises can never be sung more. We have always failed sometimes to look at the greatness of these people that your state has produced. And I could admire all these individuals, from sports to politics, without ever having come to this place. So that is what this world may look like for a lot of us. As I have mentioned multiple times, that I was educated, my bachelor's degree was in the US. Guess what was one class that was organized every single day? That was yoga. Every single student could sign up for a yoga class, and guess what? Even faculty could sign up for yoga classes and sit down with students, and it was a graded program. You could get the same credits. You get 34 credits and then you graduate. You could get 1 credit or 2 credit or 3 credits just doing yoga, because that is an integral part of their education. Now, that reminds me of the work that still needs to be done in our own country. In our own educational institutions, in our own high schools and colleges, we still have to complete the task of integrating what Swami Vivekananda introduced the world to on September 11, 1893. That introduction to Eastern spirituality, that introduction to the greatness that always existed, the glory that was always there, that he talked of in such words, and even more, the clarity that his personality in itself reflected at the World Parliament of Religions. That work needs to be completed in this country. We talked about our tolerance, we talked about our acceptance, we talked about our culture and our tradition of accepting everybody. That is what needs to be continued. That is a work that asks for more servants. That is a work that asks for more advocates and champions and leaders. And you and I can be that servant. You and I can be that leader who can take those ideas forward in our day-to-day lives. A lot of times, there will be differences, and we may fiercely disagree when it comes to the economic issues, when it comes to some social issues, when it comes to political issues. But let's disagree without becoming disagreeable. Let's express our dislike for something without really disliking people. We are in the age of social media, which has given us the liberty to say anything to anyone from anywhere. And I think that has made us forget the impact of our words. I've seen people who would not say things to other people on their face, but they say the same things on social media. We use words as hate. I believe hate is a very strong word. And I believe even somebody who says that I hate someone, even that person does not hate that person. Because hate is a very strong feeling. We may dislike one thing in one person. We may dislike a few things in people, but we cannot hate them. But social media has made it easier for us to say harsher words to people who we do not even know. More of us today, in very definite terms, in very concrete ways, dislike people who we do not even know vaguely. We do not even know the stories of other people, but we know their demerits. Let's move out of that. Let criticism be the first thing that we can keep ourselves away from. Because the moment we begin criticizing people, the moment we start disliking things and people, we fail to ask ourselves if we have really tried to know that person, if we have really tried to genuinely find their merits, and if all of us looked at the merits of people, we would just gather more meritorious things from people. We would be able to bring good qualities from everybody. Because remember, I grew up hearing that even the sun has dark spots, but we look at the light that it emits. We look at all the positivity and the power that the sun has. Likewise, your friends may have a few dark spots, but that is none of your business to take that. Yes, you may help them overcome that, but take all the bright spots that they have. Learn something from everybody. Learn everything that you can from someone, and let that be the defining role that others can play in your life, instead of being somebody who's so much into the business of disliking, so much in the business of like pointing out demerits and defects, that we fail to work on ourselves. Because the first work that we can do on this planet is on ourselves, trying to be better individuals, trying to be more accepting, trying to be more tolerant, and trying to be at the service of others at all times. So I cannot help but notice every single time that we talk about so many modern ideas, so many modern scientific theories, and every time a new modern idea is discussed, I just love to go back to the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, go back to some book or the other where Swamiji said that at least 2 centuries ago. Like any idea that you preach, anything that you talk about, even all that I'm saying right now has already been said. So go ahead and read those teachings. Go ahead and spread that message, because that is what is important. But more importantly, in doing all of this, try and ask yourself, who is a true Indian? And start living by that idea. Because a great Indian stood up in Chicago. And let that Indian define the qualities of who a great Indian is. And when you start looking at the qualities of who a great Indian is, every day you will understand your own incompleteness. Every day you will understand your own incompetence. And as much as you understand your incompetence, and as much as you understand your incompleteness, the more you will work on yourself. And the less you will have time to question other people's nationalism, other people's patriotism. Because there are so many people who stand up and question the patriotism of others, and question the nationalism of others, without ever asking themselves who a true Indian is. And if a true Indian is Swami Vivekananda, then everybody's job on this planet, in this country, everybody's 1.2 billion citizens are still on the journey of being a better Indian each day. None of us are complete. Constitutionally, our constitution has been very kind. This nation has been very loving, and we have been very fortunate that we were born in India. But that in itself does not make us a true Indian. We are Indian citizens. Let's become Indian souls and Indian spirits to its completeness. And that completeness will come in when we continue asking ourselves who a true Indian is, what our qualities should be, what our work should look like, what impact our words should have, how much more work needs to be done. Because if you realize that there is more work to be done for us individually as true citizens, as true Indians, you'll realize that there's more work to be done in this country. More work to be done in this country for all those kids who are still out of school. More work to be done in this country for the old men and women who still lack good health care. More work to be done for all those poor people or underserved people who are still looking for justice. More work to be done for this nation to reclaim its lost glory. And that more work can be completed only when we realize that there is more work to be done within us. because only that can be an extension of the work we hope to achieve on this planet and in this country. So that is more from a personal side. That is more from a spiritual side. And that is more from a philosophical side of the task of true Indians. Do not let anybody at all question your Indianness. Do not let anybody question your humaneness, because it is personal to you. And know this for a fact, that this journey will go on till our final sleep on this planet. Every day we'll become better citizens. Every day we'll be a little more Indian than we were yesterday. So let this be a journey instead of being a destination. Otherwise, the day we were all born, our destination would have been reached. But no, let that journey continue. And as we do that, remember in this process that in this journey of being a little more Indian every day, being a better citizen every day, we need to keep in our mind the realities of today. All the areas where we have failed to deliver, all the areas where more young people need to inject themselves. You need to be the next great healthcare professionals in this country. You need to be the people who do cancer research on one side and bring better healthcare, preventive healthcare on the other side. Because the work of making lives for every single Indian better lies with our generation. We need to come together and make lives better for every single citizen. But as that work continues, remember that that spiritual work, that work of training the heart and the mind and the soul needs to continue every single day. So let all of these things come together. I do not want to take much of your time today. All I want to take from you is a small commitment, which you do not need to say yes or no to. A small commitment that can be seen in your eyes and in your actions every single day when you try to be a little better Indian and set very high standards for yourself. Remember, wherever I go in this country today, I say that we are fighting a battle of low standards. We elect more and more politicians to office because they say we are going to be honest. Honesty should be the defining condition of every single human, not people who hold the highest offices. We elect our MPs and MLAs based on their promise that they will show up in their constituency. That is what they are sworn in for. We elect more and more people to office who say, we will not do scams. You better not do scams. If you do that, you should be in jails, not in parliaments. Right? So that is a battle of low standard. Do not fall for it. Just because somebody else is scoring 33 marks does not mean you'll score 34 and you'll be a better person. Your guiding light should always be 100. But 100 in life is that quest for being a little better every day. 100 is called a perfect score, right? But in life, that perfect score can probably be never reached. So it's a continuous struggle, a continuous strife. So do not participate in the battle of low standards. The battle of low standard keeps you away from improving every day. And no matter who you have been, a dance student or a yoga student, a physics student or a math student, or even just a simple citizen who loves this country dearly, you know that improving every day is so much more important than just doing well on one day. So that is pretty much what I've got to say today. That on September 11, 1893, everything that had to be said was said. And that could have helped us avoid all the things that have gone wrong in the recent past, including September 11 attacks. How much power do we have if we cannot change the minds of a few people who believe in extremism? How much power do we have if we cannot spread the message of love and take over hatred through that? So let's ask the time 100 most powerful people, the most powerful positions on the planet, to take a little bit of a power from the Indian monk who spread power to almost everybody who's reading his teachings even today. Let that power spread to every part of this world, and let that remind you of the basic ideas of acceptance and tolerance, the basic promise of improving every day, and let those qualities come together and help you define yourself as a true Indian, and help you define the improvement as the real promise of being an Indian. So let's get over that idea of the fundamental rights and the directive principles. Very good, they are written in the Constitution. Let's love those and let's follow those. But more than the fundamental rights and the directive principles, have that principled idea within of being a little more Indian every day. And ask yourself, does that Indian ask you not to engage with somebody because that person speaks a different language? Does that Indian within you asks you not to engage with somebody because that person prays differently or eats differently? Or it asks you to be more tolerant, to be more accepting, and come together and be a little better every day? So let that promise be today, on Universal Brotherhood Day, today on the anniversary of that great message. Let's take that pledge to be a little better every day and ask ourselves every day that, am I being a true Indian and is my journey complete? Let's continue to embark on that journey and be better citizens every single day. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.